Hello everyone, this video will talk about quality assurance and quality assurance alone, but if you would like to see other topics related to quality management, please watch the other videos in the channel. Clinical laboratories generate large amounts of information every day. And what are these information? These informations are the values for specific biochemical parameters that we release as results. In chemistry, for example, we have fasting blood sugar, cholesterol, albumin, bilirubin, and so on and so forth. Now, these are a lot of information that we generate and give out to patients. But how reliable are these results? Are they correct? Are they accurate? Can we believe them? Do they signify the truth in relation to the patient's health? Now, if in case that these results are not reliable, what does it mean for the patient? Would it affect the physiologic health of the patient? Will it be important that the patient receives accurate and precise results? The answer is yes, of course. The main purpose of the laboratory is to be able to reflect a condition of the patient so that we may be able to help them. So it is important that we provide confidence in the laboratory data that we give out or that we furnish to patients. And for this reason, we now have quality assurance. This is to make sure that there is quality in the laboratory. There is quality in the results that we give. But what happens now if there is poor quality in the laboratory? We have three. First is inappropriate action, loss of credibility, and the last one is legal action. Examples of inappropriate action would be over-treatment, non-treatment, over-investigation, under-investigation, or delayed action. Why so? Because if we give out poor laboratory results, that means that the result itself is not correct. Now, if we give incorrect results, of course, the treatment would be incorrect as well. We are leading the doctors to a diagnosis that is not true. So we can have over-treatment, okay, and over-investigation, so that would exert extra effort from everyone, extra effort from the patient, from the doctor, extra time from both parties. Non-treatment is bad because if the patient is indeed sick, then that means the patient will not be treated. Under investigation, meaning that the patient may have the condition, but since we give poor results, we won't be able to investigate, and this might cause the patient to progress in its disease. Delayed action, it's related to under investigation. It is important that there is quality in the results so that these inappropriate actions will not happen. Not to mention, if we have poor quality, over-treatment, over-investigation will also exert a lot of financial efforts. Loss of credibility, meaning it will not support the provision of high-quality healthcare. It will not ensure the credibility of the laboratory, and it will not generate confidence in the laboratory. If this does happen, and patients know and doctors know that you are releasing inaccurate results, this can cause trouble. For example, if you release an abnormal result, yung mga doctors pwedeng sumugo dyan kasi alam nila may possibility na mali yung results mo, right? If nothing is coinciding with their diagnosis, they can easily blame the laboratory for not giving accurate results, and we don't want that. Legal action, if worse comes to worse, it can lead to legal action. So the suspension of licenses, kanino license? First is the laboratory. That means the laboratory will not be able to operate anymore. Isasarado yan, okay? And then all of the employees will lose their jobs. It can also mean the suspension of the license of the pathologist or the medical technologist. And we don't like that because you worked hard to graduate, right? 4 years learning all of these things, and then the treacherous board exam review to make sure that you pass the board exam. And when you do pass the board exam, you get your license. RMT ka na. But if you offer poor quality and something happens and legal action happens, they can revoke your license. lahat ng pinagpaguran mo, mawawala yan. And of course, we have to prevent that. How do we prevent it? By making sure that the work we do has quality, that the end result has quality. To make sure that none of these are the examples of poor quality in the laboratory, to make sure that they do not happen. So now you know the importance of quality assurance. It's there to make sure that we provide good and quality results. It's not something to be neglected, but it's something to be taken seriously to avoid any consequences. Now let's talk more about quality assurance. Quality assurance is also known as a quality assurance system. We use system because it's not something small. Rather, it's something vast, it's something big, it's something that involves a lot of different factors. Now, generally, these factors are the pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical factors. We will be discussing these further in the succeeding slides. Quality assurance is concerned with the total process. When we say total process, it's from start to finish. When does it start? It starts with the doctor's requisition. When does it finish? It ends when the doctor receives the laboratory result. So it's a process that's not only inside the laboratory. Quality assurance is not only involving the medical technologists, but it also involves the doctors, the patient, and whoever may be involved inside the process. In the laboratory, though, examples of the processes would be the turnaround time, patient identification, test utility. Okay, pagpasok mo pa lang sa laboratory class, lahat ng gagawin mo, binabantayan ng quality assurance. Why? To make sure that you do everything correctly. To make sure that you perform with quality. Kasama na dun class yung saan ka kakain, kailan ka kakain, saan ka pwedeng umupo. Kulang na lang pati yung pag-ihi mo tsaka yung paghinga mo papakialamin the quality assurance. That's how vast quality assurance is. It's everything you do inside the laboratory. Now, quality assurance is not only the things you do. It also involves documents. What kinds of documents? These are the plans, the policies, the procedures, okay, that are involved in the administrative structure of the laboratory. Other examples would be the logbooks where the patient IDs are stored, the duplicate results that are kept inside the laboratory. Quality assurance monitors quality laboratory performance from ordering of laboratory requests up to its reporting. Quality assurance also recognizes and minimizes errors. Since quality assurance is there from the start, it would recognize or it would see if there are things done incorrectly. And when these are recognized, they would be able to correct these errors and minimize them in the future, or better yet, eliminate them in the future. Quality assurance is also used to represent practices that are generally recommended for ensuring that desired quality goals are achieved. This means that quality assurance would be recommending best practices that we should follow or that are examples so that we can provide quality results. So again, quality assurance involves all the factors that affect the test results even before the start of the test until the end. Now, generally, the three factors are pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical factors. When we say pre-analytical, these are the factors before the sample reaches this section of the laboratory. So this phase includes the acquisition of the request, handling of the specimen, transportation of the specimen, and even the processes that the patient would have to undergo, like fasting, for example. So when we say pre-analytical, lahat ng mangyayari before the specimen is tested. So if you imagine the laboratory, it starts with the doctor's requisition until it reaches the section of the laboratory where the test will happen. Analytical, on the other hand, would be the factors during the analysis of the sample itself. So this phase includes all the factors related to the test platform or the testing process itself. So these are the procedures. Analytical involves the actual procedure of the experiments. Next, post-analytical are the errors after analysis. So this phase includes all the steps after testing. So when does post-analytical start? It starts when the result is generated, and everything you do after the result is considered post-analytical. So to emphasize, quality assurance refers to all planned and systematic activities to provide confidence in the results that we generate are correct. The purpose of this is to maintain the overall quality of the patient results. Now, going back to the 3 factors, let's discuss them more. First is the pre-analytical. Pre-analytical factors may be difficult to monitor and to control. Why? Because some of these factors occur outside the laboratory. Example would be patient preparation. Example of patient preparation would be fasting. There is no way that we can monitor and make sure that the patient did fast properly, that they followed the correct fasting time. All we can do is ask them. But if the patient lies, then there's really nothing much more we can do about it. Other examples that would be difficult to monitor would be the nutritional status of the patient. Why is this important? Because there are some tests that would rely on the nutritional status of the patient, or if the patient has an intake of alcohol or drugs, or if the patient is smoking. There are also tests that may be sensitive to exercise, stress, sleep, or even posture. So these are all the different factors that would be difficult to see to make sure that the results are quality. Next would be the analytical. Analytical, we would be able to provide a better control of. Why? Because these are primarily dependent on the instrumentation and the reagents, and of course, the medical technologists involved in the testing procedure. So analytical involves the actual measurement. So these are the tests procedures themselves. Under quality assurance, we have what we call the quality control. So when we say quality control, it is everything involved in the analytical phase. And lastly, post-analytical. This consists of the recording and reporting of the patient data. Recording, for example, would be where you write the result. Do you write it on the logbook? Do you write it somewhere else? Do you print it? Reporting, do you give the results to the doctor through email, or do you give a printed copy? So those are all post-analytical. Let's now discuss the different errors that may be detected in quality assurance. Let's start with the pre-analytical phase. The first one has already been discussed earlier, which is patient preparation. So let's proceed to the second one, which is test ordering. An example under test ordering would be the lab requests. So these are the written laboratory requests given by the doctor to the laboratory, so we know what to test for. The problem here happens when the request given to the lab is handwritten. So there may be times that we don't understand properly what is written in the request form, and we may test something different. Or it may also happen that the request form given is in a checkbox form, pero yung naka-check umaabot hanggang dun sa susunod or dun sa kabilang test. So now we don't know which test to follow. Okay, so those are examples of test ordering. Next would be specimen acquisition and specimen collection. Now there is a lot of wrong things that may happen under here if we do not take care of it. For example, the wrong identification of the patient, no? Mali yung in-extract mong patient, or mali yung ginamit mong anticoagulant for the test. For example, the test request is hematology, but you used a red top tube. Another example would be a wrong specimen draw. We have taught you how to use evacuated tubes properly, correctly, in the right sequence, so I do hope you still remember them. What else? Quantity not sufficient. So for example, you need 3 ml of blood to have a correct ratio with anticoagulant, but you were only able to extract 2.5, pero tinuloy mo pa rin yung testing, then that can cause errors. Another one would be the tourniquet application. You know how long a tourniquet should only be applied during extraction. Baka 5 minutes na palang nakalagay yung tourniquet mo, o kaya nangingitim na yung kamay ng patient because of the tourniquet, sa tagal ng nakalagay yung tourniquet, but you still continued anyways, and that may cause problem. What else? Specimen storage. Specimen storage is also important because tests may be sensitive to different conditions. For example, electrolytes, they are sensitive to evaporation, so you have to make sure that you test them immediately or that they are sealed properly. What else? Bilirubin is sensitive to light, so we have to make sure that when we extract, the test tube is covered to make it protected from light. Other specimens may be sensitive to temperature, so hindi lahat ng specimen na hindi pwedeng i-process agad, i-ref mo, because there might be some analytes that would be destroyed when you refrigerate them. Inside specimen acquisition and collection would also be specimen preparation. For example, how do you prepare the specimen, steps in specimen preparation, centrifugation, for example, or if you need to aliquot the specimen, those are all under pre-analytical phase. So generally, pre-analytical phase is everything you do in the reception area and in the preparation area. Next, let's go to the analytical phase. Now, there's also a lot that may happen here, but again, these are easily controlled compared to the pre-analytical. Example would be water quality. So there should be no interfering substances that you use during testing. So hindi pwedeng tap water lang for certain tests. Okay? Hindi pwedeng water that wasn't filtered, and so on and so forth. Another one would be the calibration of the equipment and machine, and of course the reagents. When we say calibration, that means that these equipments, machines, and reagents are working properly. Okay. Next would be the stability of electrical power. There are machines that would require their own power source. Hindi pwede yung naka-extension cord, hindi pwede yung may kasama. It should have its own supply of power. Next would be thermostatically controlled instruments. These are referring to instruments that should be inside a cold room. Inside the laboratory that I worked with before, we had to enclose one machine for chemistry because it was very, very sensitive. It had to be in a very, very cold room. That's why when we go inside there, para kaming nasa ibang bansa, it's very cold. Kulang na lang snow na nahuhulog para meron kang winter feel. It has its own air conditioning unit to be able to supply the correct temperature for that machine. Because if not, the results will fluctuate and your results would be incorrect. Next example would be the reagent and kit's expiration date. Of course, we all know that we can't use materials that are beyond the expiration date. So, in general, analytical errors happens inside the laboratory sections themselves. Next one would be the post-analytical. So this involves test reporting. Test reporting, for example, would be wrong patient ID. Okay? It's possible na tama yung in-extracan mong patient, tama yung tinest mong patient, pero pagdating pala sa test reporting, yung result binigay mo sa ibang patient. So then that becomes incorrect. It can also be possible that the report is not legible. For example, kung sulat kamay yung report na kailangan nating ibigay, and then the result is not understood, or yung number 0 mo looks like number 6. So wrong interpretation may happen. It may also be that there is a delay in the reporting. For example, lumabas na yung result, pero nagutom ka, so kumain ka muna, so there's a delay in the release of the result. That is also an error. Transcription error is when we encode different results, yung mali yung na-type mong result sa result form. And of course, another example would be an excessive turnaround time. Yung dapat 1 hour lang yung result, meron nang ibibigay sa patient, pero 5 hours na, nasa reception pa rin, hindi pa gumagalaw yung specimen, then that's considered an error in post-analytical. Next is test interpretation. So, example for this would be how the medical technologist would interpret the result as it comes out. Is it the correct result? Can I release it to the patient, or should I do something else? Should I double check? Should I compare it to the previous result? Okay, ito yung gagawin mo with the result itself. It can also be that there is incorrect reference values as well. So generally, post-analytical is involved in the releasing area. To recap, quality assurance is a process responsible for maintaining the integrity of everything in the laboratory. With quality assurance in place, it will produce a quality system. This quality system will be adapted in a laboratory, which will make the laboratory a quality laboratory. Quality laboratories will produce correct results to be given to the right patient in a very timely manner. With all of this in place, it would reassure that there is quality in the system.